Hey everyone, this is a rather different video. It's not me expressing something over how I feel personally, but rather something that's quite public and is known to everyone. Today's video is about how Indian media is practically a joke when considered to the subject it's supposed to cover, which is journalism, or at least what the term means literally, which is covering real issues and problems. And I say that because in our country, views and TRP matter more than anything else. Without dragging it on too much, looking at the year 2020 alone, there are amazing examples of this, from laughable things that media covered when there were real issues that should have been on the top priority instead. And let me get this straight, there are still few outlets that do cover these things. It's how I myself came to know about these other than the forums I browse for news. But majority of the channels that the population of India does consume for the news that they watch cover things that never matter or shouldn't really have ever mattered. Before I go further over this, I want to make it clear that I don't in any way condone hate against any of these people personally. Secondly, I want you to focus on how the news media progressively strays off from the real issues to focus on the ones that purely have no news elements and only gain them TRP and shouldn't be on our major media outlets at all. While I won't go over every single news section, but to include a start, during in January when the entire world and their news stations were focused on how the COVID situation might make things worse and densely populated countries much like India won't be able to focus and handle it properly, here we were more worried about Republic Day celebrations and what weapon dealings we've signed and how powerful the country is, which, don't get me wrong, isn't something that shouldn't be covered, but other countries also had celebrations they put aside. They also had New Year's and other things that they completely ignored due to the raging pandemic that was going to be upon us and was happening at that moment and was more important to focus upon. In February and March, when the virus was in action and spreading, rather than informing people on how to spread out on social distancing and do things that you should do to combat protection from this virus, which again every other global news media outlet was doing, Indian media was more focused upon elections, the Shaheen Bagh incident, and business deals for some reason, rather than discussing on how we can stop or curb the virus spread. And in April end, when they did start somehow covering it, they immediately shifted their topic to the Tablighi Jamaat incident, but not because it was related to COVID, but because it had another religion involved and they knew it would get clicks. This is proven by a lot of angles, and they made it quite obvious that the virus wasn't the reason they were covering it. It was pathetic, because channels were outright calling it things like planned spreading event or terms like Muslim virus, and things I'm just ashamed to say even right now. And all this when there was support for events of yatras, naming in the excuse of what restrictions? God will save us all. Again, just covering the issue because there was a religion involved. Now getting to the present time, wherein limelight and news media of our nation cares more about the Sushant Singh Rajput case and revolving around Rhea Chakraborty fiasco, rather than existing problems such as the coverage of the fall of the GDP that's now in a negative 23%, worse than anyone expected, or issues of us getting literally the amount of COVID cases that half the countries over the world get combined. Be it enormous job losses and layoffs that India is experiencing right now, and so much more to count upon that if I start to mention each and every single thing, this video would stretch beyond an hour. It's legitimately sad and pathetic how low Indian media can go just to garner TRP and views online. When people tune into any news channel or websites these days, the top line says Rhea Chakraborty did this, and then there's a small little pathetic box in the corner saying how many COVID deaths and cases we have. For those that might not know, we are experiencing 90,000 cases and 1,000 daily deaths as of me right now making this video, which is absurd when you think about it, but the sad reality is people crave for stuff like this. It's the sole reason channels like Arnab Goswami's Republic TV have the most TRP and millions of views on their channels. And that's solely due to the fact that there's this norm hive mind India has that if a trend happens, they will follow it like blind sheep. And news media sees these things, and this time it saw how much the SSR coverage would get them due to all the Twitter drama and attention, and hence latched on it like a wild dog instead of covering the real issues and things that are, even as of this moment me making this video, active and requires attention and help towards the victims. And good example of this is the Assam floods, where more than 14 lakh people have lost their homes and are on the cusp of either dying by hunger or being overwhelmed with financial issues. But no, what Riya Chakraborty ate in jail today is more important than some rape victims and some students committing suicide over exams and testing positive for COVID. It genuinely baffles me. Yes, you need views and TRP to garner money and views and yada yada, but how low will you go? Do you have no empathy as a human towards the others? The Beirut explosion that recently happened is something that was horrifying, and every single nation's television media covered it. But it wasn't because they needed attention. It was because they could raise awareness for the fund that would be used to rebuild the city. And here we are, caring more about a temple that's case is already won and the rights are kept to build, rather than lakhs of people losing their homes and now on the streets with their kids dying to poverty and hunger. To count more, there are rapes happening in our country. What you see on the screen is just this month alone. Why did media stop covering these? Does every rape have to be as heinous in nature like Unnav and Nirbhaya to be somewhat of a value to be covered? As much as I liked Sushant too, but his death and this entire fiasco more important to cover than some 6-7-year-old girl getting raped and her eyes getting poked out? Does every suicide need to be of a celebrity or someone famous enough for it to be covered, but not the 28 suicides that happen daily, including those that are minors? Does COVID only matter in the news when Dwayne Johnson or some celebrity or some minister gets it, but not if the medical staff is dying because of it, and hell, in some cases not even getting admission into the hospital they worked at? About 60% of young Indians consume and have drugs daily, and most don't make it through rehab. But a 6-gram weed is more important to cover? About 1.7 million people are homeless in India, but it's more important to cover Kangana's side office being demolished? There are actual assassinations and gang turf problems in India, but no, Bollywood mafia is a bigger problem, right? All I'm asking is this more important to show on news instead of this? Trust me, as I said before, if I drag on all the things I want to say, the video would cross an eternity in duration. And honestly, I'm just fed up with mentioning these things because it only boils my blood more. Because none of them are solved, and sadly I doubt half of them will ever be. Because as someone great once said, "Tali ek haath se nahi bajti." Clearly there are people consuming the content I described above and we can't do much for them. Soon after all this current drama is over, IPL is coming, then Happy New Year celebrations and all the other stuff they can discuss and just push aside the real issues again. We can't change these people and their perceptions. However, what we can do is few things that are quite doable easily and just needs a united form and people to follow upon. Contact your television and dish providers, advertisement companies, brands, people and individuals that sponsor these channels. Tell them what they're doing is wrong and that you don't accept it. This has been done before in outside countries and even in India, and it does work. Brands care about their money, their reputation and their customer base, and hence if called out on enough, they do take action even against their most favorite ones. So I request you notice and ask, be it Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, tag them, comment on them, call and inform whatever you can, especially if their names appear when news anchors and panelists are saying hateful things or spreading misinformation and garbage media content. Take screenshots and let them know. Ask them if they support this sort of content. Seek a response, because if they do, let them know you won't support their brand. It may not sound like much, but it does work. Famous companies just stray off someone if enough attention has been brought to them. Secondly, support independent media, because when the public pays, the public is served. When advertisers pay, advertisers are served. Watch the content that actually covers news. Even donate to them if you can. Slowly and surely they'll rise and you'll have the news standard you deserve. As I said before, talking to people and others, making them understand, while may be possible to some extent, in most cases it isn't. And people won't change their opinion. But you can, on the other hand, tell the brands to do so. Because if you take the hand that feeds, only then is when you get a reaction. And if you're creative and have the resources, maybe do something like this to raise your voice. And if it's legal to do so. There are even reporters and people who have quit these media channels and even from the inside are showing coded messages that they hate this. Try to get in touch with them and tell them that you are listening and you would like these situations to stop too. Together, you all can do this. It'll take time, but it will happen. Regardless, my point for the long and short is, yes, media is pathetic right now and it cares more about views than people's lives. And if it comes down to it, it will abandon any important news if it means to get more attention, money, and advertisements for their content. Which is, yes, pathetic, but when did certain animals started to shy away from trash just because people hate it? So kindly please, if you can, within your rights to do something about this, do it. Because if you don't, they will remain this way. I wholeheartedly request you to give this a thought. I'm not one to ask for this kind of stuff, but share this video if you can, because more people need to realize that there are real issues going on right now that need attention and need the help, and only you can make that happen. Thanks for watching once again. I was surprised by the last video's response, and I wanted to say thank you for watching and subbing, because it makes me realize that there are people everywhere feeling like me, because I thought I was alone. And with this, I've realized there are others probably thought the same way and now feel the way I do, not alone. So thank you. That said, stay safe everyone, take care, and a good day.